Oh. No, oh, he's off. Welcome everybody to the New Fly Fisher. I'm your host, Colin McEwen. In today's show, we're going to be talking about attractor patterns. I'm up here in British Columbia on a beautiful river, the St Marys, and it's just getting into late afternoon into early evening. We're going to be talking about using different types of attractor patterns such as grasshoppers and other types of terrestrials to bring big fish to the surface. This is really exciting visual fishing. It's going to be a great show. I know you're going to love it because this is a lot of fun. Stay with us. In today's show, we are fishing on the beautiful and majestic St. Marys River in eastern British Columbia. This system is renowned for dry fly fishing for large cutthroat trout. If you're purists who enjoy taking trout on the surface, this is truly a paradise. I joined Jerry Friedrich and his good friend Larry Demko on a float trip down the river on a late September day. Jerry explained a little about the river and the necessity for stringent catch and release practices on this system.
Well, fly fishing traditionally over the years, even before the regulations came in, has been a catch and release fishing sport, although not everyone does, but for the most part, as far as mountain streams and trout go, that's been the way it is. In British Columbia, we have a lot of catch and release fishing. This particular river, the St. Marys, is a fly fishing only river. All the rivers in British Columbia, except for a small portion of rivers that are exempted, require a single barbless hook, whether it's fly fishing only or whether it's not. Barbless hook means it either can come from the manufacturer barbless or we pinch the barb down with a pair of pliers. That enables us to release the fish a lot quicker. Barbless hooks aid in the catch and release process by cut the handling time down by more than 50%. So we can land the fish quickly, have a look at our prize, release it quickly, do a small injury to the fish, and let him go with a little bit of harm as possible. The tissue of the fish, or the skin of the fish, is a living tissue, unlike ours, which is more like the shell that holds in the contents of our body. The fish's skin is a little bit different. It reacts very strongly to the environment. That's why fish respond so quickly to pollutants. So if we've got something dirty on our hands, like sunscreen or real lube or fly floating or anything else like that, we try not to handle the fish too much. So it's possible to release the fish sometimes by just pulling the hook out and not touching them at all. If we use a net, we're using larger fish. We use a net to keep them from bouncing around inside the boat or on the rocks and the shoreline. If we use a net, we use a net with a fish-friendly or a catch-and-release mesh, which is just softer mesh. It doesn't have any knots in it. Doesn't do as much harm to the fish's skin. Cutthroat, like other trout, are opportunists. Cutthroat are probably more of an opportunist than other trout. They'll find a holding area that is rich in oxygen. The water will be cooler than perhaps surrounding areas, and they have a good opportunity or great expectation to find passing food. They might be in a spot where there's food comes to them through different currents or around rocks or something. In feeding lanes is a different story. That's where the current of the water is broken up, and it creates a seam between fast and slow water. And surface dwelling insects, or insects that are emerging and caught in the surface foam or surface film, will be caught in the feeding lane, and trout can hang underneath that and watch for food coming to them. In lakes, trout, all kinds of trout, cruise and swim around looking for food. In rivers, generally that's not the case. They'll hang in one spot and wait for food to come to them because the water's flowing towards them. They don't need to swim around, swim forward, move around to get well oxygenated. The water comes through them. All they do is open their mouth. Well, fish like to be protected like any other animal, and if they're able to get lucky enough to find some holding water where they've got good food and good protection, they can be protected from the sun, can be protected from perhaps larger fish, certainly protected from other predators like ducks that are feeding on smaller fish, or osprey or eagles or that kind of thing. So if you can find a spot as a fly fisherman that has all of these things together, like some of the deep banks we've been fishing today that's got deep, cool water, feeding lanes, structure to hide under, shade, and overhanging branches to keep the predators away, then that's an ideal spot for fish. So us as fly fishermen, if we can identify those places, then those are the places that deserve our best attention.
Follow that foam line.
Just let it, yeah, it's floating good, it's floating high, so we'll fish it right through. Okay, now I got a real tough cast for you coming up. Why don't you stand up? Okay. Look over there. We're going to get through this riffle. Just off to the right, there's a little corner and there's a stump. You're going to get like one crack at it.
Okay.
And it's a seam, it's the end of the seam, so don't fish up in the seam.
Fish on.
Where did he come from?
Must have taken it when we had our heads turned. It's a little guy.
That's a pretty good fly. You can catch a fish dragging it.
Does that qualify as trolling?
Yeah, that's mooching. Okay, shake him off, and we'll
Get ready for this next one.
get into the next one.
Cutthroat trout get their name from the red or orange slash found under their lower jaw. Most of the black spots on this fish are found towards the tail, which is usually heavily spotted and yellowish in color. Cutthroat are very susceptible to fishing pressure, and the implementation of catch and release combined with barbless regulations have greatly improved the situation for this species. Habitat destruction and non-native species introduction are probably the greatest threats to this beautiful trout's existence. Cutthroat are very popular in Western Canada and the USA because they so readily rise to dry flies, making them a dry fly purist fantasy.
In the morning, when the shadows are long over the river and the temperature's not quite so high, the insects are emerging all over in slow water and fast water and back eddies and behind stumps and shoreline debris. We get into the warmer part of the day after 2 o'clock and the air heats up. We go down to attractor patterns and grasshoppers and terrestrials. And the fish are still hungry. The fish haven't decided not to eat. It's just that there's less food available to them, so we have to make a showing to them that there is some food available. And the quickest and easiest way for us to do that is to throw large attractor patterns. And attractor patterns do one thing and one thing only, I believe, is it cuts the timing down to a shorter amount of time. Fish can look up and they see a fly that's 1.5 inches long. It's a lot easier for them to see it. We can cover a lot more water with throwing a larger fly. It flops in the water, gives a little splash, the fish look up, it's an attention getter, and that's where it got its name as an attractor pattern. We might throw some other imitation patterns this afternoon, like minnow patterns and that kind of thing. It's possible to throw nymph patterns. It's an effective form of fly fishing in the river. But because we're only here to target topwater fish, we want to stay on dry flies today, we're going to stick with these big, high-profile attractor patterns and terrestrials. We might throw some ants, grasshoppers, some new age flies like Chernobyl ants and Turks, tarantulas, and that kind of thing. Those are fun flies to throw. It creates an exciting topwater action because those bigger flies attract a real violent attack sometimes. Okay, good, same thing coming up down here. There's another fallen tree. See it down there?
Yeah. Just put it in tight here to see if anybody comes up.
Okay, get as close as you dare in there. Perfect, that's great. Okay, and that little foam line that's right off the end of that tree,
Okay. Yeah.
see if you can't get one hanging in there. Okay, underneath this bush.
Got him. Oh! Let's try again.
Yeah? Did you sting him or
Yeah,
not?
no, I didn't. There's two of them
Okay.
there.
Well, then maybe you'll come back.
I can see the one he just rolled on it. Let me get it under like this. I'll do sidearm. Right there. No, I must have stung him.
Yeah. Okay, float it real close off the face of that branch there.
In here?
Yeah. know it's tight casting in there, but. Okay, I'm going to go row out past this tree, turn the boat, and then I want you to cast back
inside?
in behind
Okay.
it. Yeah.
All right.
Kind of a tight cast in there, too. You know, you'll sink. There you go. Got him. Nice.
Oh, it's a nice fish.
That's a nice fish.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I'm going to pull you back into the shallow water so you can land.
Oh, he's off.
Is he off?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll go back
That was
to
a
another
nice
one.
fish. That was a beauty.
Yeah, perfect. Watch the overhanging branches there.
Got him. Got him. Yeah. Get him out.
Okay, yank him out of those branches.
I am.
Cutthroat want to rub it off. Okay, I'm going to pull you up to the shore so you get ready to step out of the boat. Spool up some of that spare line at your feet. Step out of the boat downstream because it's easier on you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
He just came up and sipped that. Oh, look at
Okay, just hold him. Keep your rod tip high.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna put his head up if you're ready.
He doesn't like this shallow water, so he's going to try and bolt.
Oh, he just got off.
Good.
That's what I was afraid of.
You didn't injure him.
Oh, that was nice.
That was the biggest fish of the day so far.
I think so. Thanks.
I'm glad you
That
hooked
was
one there.
perfect.
After you lost that one there about the same size, I was hoping you'd get another big one in there. You can see how, I mean, that's got all the things that the fish want, all the cover, and they get the branches there, deep channel.
Let's do it again.
Okay.
A nice fish.
Did you get him right in the foam, Colin?
Yep. Right just before the tree. Just before the roots. He's in the foam line. I made 2 casts there before he took. And I think, you know what the problem was? It was my presentation on the first 2. You want to land this one, Larry? Got him right in the top of the mouth. Just sipped it. Oh, he's off. These barbless hooks are good for that.
Attractor patterns are usually associated with nondescript flies that really resemble a specific food source. However, Jerry and I believe that attractor patterns can include any flies that somewhat resemble a specific food source, but can also be taken for something else. Muddler minnows are a good example of this. Floated on the surface, this fly can be taken as either a grasshopper or a wounded baitfish by aggressive trout. Many hopper patterns are rather vague in their detailing, and again can be mistaken by trout as something else. The key is that aggressive fish will be triggered into violent surface strikes by a combination of silhouette and presentation.
Jerry, why do you find these attractor patterns so effective, especially, as you were saying, later in the day as opposed to early morning?
Well, the trout are still hungry. The trout, they want to eat all day. And when we get into the heat of the afternoon, later in the day, there's an absence of insects available to them. So they're interested in other food sources, minnows and grasshoppers, and we use stimulator flies, a lot of different things to get them to strike. They get the attractor pattern name because it just attracts the fish's attention. They're big flies, they flop down in the water, make a big splash. The fish can't help but notice them. Well, we just spent 3 days with a company called West Slope Fisheries, a company owned by a fisheries biologist, Angela Prince, and what we were involved in is catching fish for her so she could tag them on this river. And what she wanted to do was tag these fish with a radio transmitter so that they can track them for 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. The transmitter is a fairly large item, about half the size of a little finger, and the size of the transmitter and the cost of the transmitter kind of dictates the kind of fish that it can go into. So we were hunting down fish that were between 16 and 18 inches so they could take the implanted transmitter, and we have a fairly good expectation that the fish is healthy enough it's going to live into the next 3 or 4 years at least. And what they're trying to prove, it's their first definitive study on cutthroat trout. They're trying to dispel some myths about cutthroat being homebodies and living in the same water. They've got some suspicions that they do move around a bit. They've tracked a couple that actually move quite a bit. So this study in the next coming years is going to prove what the trout actually do and where they go and where they spend the winter. When we were attaching radio transmitters to the female cutthroat, that was particularly a benefit because it allows us to find out whether or not that female actually goes to spawning beds or whether she doesn't. They track these by helicopter. As you can imagine, it's a pretty costly, expensive process. But what it helps us do is it gives us a better understanding of the fish. It helps the fisheries biologists for the provincial government design and prescribe different fishing regulations to protect the fish and to deal with some of the management issues of the cutthroat.
Cutthroat trout are very optimistic. They want to be in a situation where they don't want to expend any energy. They want to be in a spot where they can ambush the food. We see that not only trout but in bass fishing too. They look for the spot where they're going to be inconspicuous to the food that's coming down to them. They also have to be, when they're looking for their food, to be aware that they may also be the food. We have to be looking up at the sky to see if there's an osprey. So they want to be in a specific spot so that the sort of the right place at the right time so that they can go get their food with the minimum amount of energy expended and yet not be eaten themselves. This structure is along the riverbank is basically formed each year as a different set of a different river. The high water will move the rocks, they'll move the tree stumps, and what we're looking for is along these banks are areas which we just described in which we have a shadow. The fish can hide and ambush in a shadow. So you're looking at a fallen tree where the sun will cast a shadow onto the river, and these are perfect ambush hiding spots. The last hiding spot is a big structure in the water itself, such as a rock, where the fish has two places to hide. He can hide directly in front of the rock to be blended into the rock as the food comes towards it, as the water slows right before a rock, or he can be tucked in behind, where there's a feeding line that will form from the rock. As we'll see as a fisherman, the foam line that will be there, and this is the transition between the fast water and the slow water, and this is where insects will be trapped and it's easier for a fish to pick off.
Well, just this last winter and early in the spring, I was involved with Trout Unlimited Canada, and what we did is we had a project that started out relatively small, where we put up signs at the different access points and different rivers, different fisheries around these kootenays, and what it does is to help inform some local anglers and visiting anglers of some of the rules and regulations peculiar to the particular waterway that they're on. Most of the rule infractions and people that are breaking the fishing regulations are not done maliciously. It's because they just don't know. They don't know landmarks, and they might not know where the start or the no fishing zone starts or stops. So what these signs do is they're maps that give people a "you are here" picture, and it gives them some orientation. They know where they are, the name of the water they're on, and the name of some of the landmarks around. And it started off as a small project, and Trout Unlimited got some help from Tembec Forest Industries, the Ministry of Forests, Ministry of Environment, Fisheries Renewal BC, and they funded a great portion of it. And it's this community involvement where we had a lot of people interested in it, and what it does for relatively small dollars and relatively small effort impacts a lot of people. We get a lot of visiting fishers in British Columbia, whether they're fly fishermen or regular fishermen, and if they have more information to start with and better tools, then it can only enhance their fishing when they're here. That fish is going to convince me to get off this hopper and get onto something else. We're at a spot in the river later in the day where we're traditionally on attractor patterns, big hoppers and stimulators and that kind of thing. And Larry and I have positioned ourselves in this run like we have dozens of times before. And I got so many fish feeding in front of me, I can't tell what they're feeding on with the glare from the sun. But they're just so close and they're feeding on something really aggressive. So I'm going to downsize. I've got an irresistible Adams. It was good for us earlier in the day. I'm going to pass this over these feeding fish and see if I can't convince one of them that this is the way to go. This isn't the biggest fish in the river, but so we parked the boats here to fish big attractor patterns, and now I'm pitching a size 18 emerging caddis. Nice, strong, healthy fish.
For more information about today's show or about our series, please join us on the World Wide Web at www.thenewflyfisher.com.
Why don't you go ahead and step out when we get into the shallow water and you can land that big fish.
Okay.
And then I'll stop the boat and I'll get the net out.
Okay.
This fish is too big to just muscle in.
This might be the biggest fish of the day, I'm not sure.
Biggest landed fish of the day. We lost the biggest fish of the day. I think he took that caddisfly subsurface.
Well, I was just starting to drag it and he came and grabbed it.
Oh, so he took it skating.
Yeah. Got him.
Okay, we don't want to hold him out too much. We don't want to handle him.
All right, let's go.
Just gentle. If he swims off on his own.
Jerry, thanks. That was really fantastic.
That's a great capture, great jay.
Oh, that was wonderful. Everybody, dry fly fishing for cutthroat. I mean, it's incredible. Jerry's got a great guiding service here, and we're just in phenomenal territory. We've been seeing wildlife everywhere. We just saw a bald eagle 5 minutes ago. I mean, this is living. From all of us here at the New Fly Fisher, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
To order a copy of your favorite New Fly Fisher episode, contact us through our website at www.thenewflyfisher.com or call us at 613-836-8295. Copies of this educational series make an excellent gift for your favorite angler or friend, and they also make a good addition to your reference library. $14.95 for 1 VHS tape plus shipping and handling. Order 3 tapes and only pay $39.95 plus shipping and handling.